the year 2012, floods in Nigeria began in early July, killing at least 363 people and displaced over 2.1 million persons. As of November 2012, with this city being one of the highest hit, the floods were termed as the worst in 40 years and affected an estimated total of 7 million people. The estimated damages and losses caused by the floods was more than $3 billion. The floods came back in 2022 in September to be specific, and according to official government data, the floods displaced over 1.4 million people and killed over 603 persons. There are already speculations of the floods incidents that happened in 2012 and 2022 coming back again in 2023. As you can see behind me, suburbs of this city like this are beginning to feel the impact. But what is the cause of these recurring floods in the past years, and what is the solution moving forward? My name is Nnimmo Green for Capital TV. Join me as I take you through this story.
For generations, the rhythm of life in Nigeria's Niger Delta has always been intertwined with water. But in recent years, that rhythm has turned into a relentless, destructive roar. Yenagoa, the capital city of Bayelsa State in the Niger Delta, Nigeria, once a bustling city, is now facing an existential threat: perennial flooding. This is not just a seasonal inconvenience anymore. It is now a new, terrifying normal. The devastating floods of 2012 and 2022 were supposed to be a once-in-a-decade event. But in the years between and since, the water keeps returning higher, faster, and staying even longer. What is changing? And why is this resilient city built on water now seemingly drowning in it? The answer, many believe, lies far beyond its immediate shores in a global crisis with devastating local impacts: climate change.
This place where we did the first time, water be no do rainfall. All our houses with our environment, water dey enter them. As I dey walk here, if rain fall like today, water go enter for all our house. We don't know what to do. All of our things dey spoil. Our children, we don't know where to keep them. They cause malaria with typhoid for us. When I go on for here, all this one dey farm cassava. This one is our house. Mami be the landlady. This one says my whistle. We dey farm cassava for here. They find water to carry wash something. Time of dry season, rainy season, so we need to see.
I built this canoe because of the flood. We prepared for the flood because we had that the flood had come. That's why we prepared it for. Because God is not suffering here, so that made me also prepare this for we not to suffer as last year, because there is nobody help us.
For the road as we dey go last year, the road tear into 3 places. No way na paddle we dey paddle before we go reach community. When we reach there, water don cover everywhere. No way to see plantain buy. People wey dey cut 10 dozen, 15 dozen, now only 1 dozen dem dey cut. Then they cry. No way. Every day the plantain dey high. No plantain.
With residents of the mainly affected Bayelsa State capital, Yenagoa, since left with the wreckage of the perennial floods, environmental activists like Maurice Alagua are using social media to draw up government attention to neglected suburbs like this.
From that 2022, as we are wading through the water here, I took short video shots and posted on social media on my very Facebook page. After that, even while we are working trying to clear the drains this year, I also shot shot some video clip and shared how we are preparing for the flood and how the road is. And even in 2022, while I did that, I appealed that the government's attention should be drawn here to ensure that this road is upgraded. This lane of Sanfino is now being attended to by the state government, and I think it is a welcome development. It shows that our activities, our advocacy in and out of social media getting to the authorities, and action are being taken. It's not only here. I think some other persons too who did that in some other areas in Yenagoa, they are also working in those areas. Social media impact.
A short distance from Yenagoa, in the historically significant Ogoniland, the impact of these changing weather patterns is just as severe, though perhaps less visually dramatic in the urban sense. Here, the lifeblood of communities is agriculture. But for farmers like these women, the land no longer provides, and that means they too are struggling to provide for their families, because it is from this land that they feed their household.
Nde buendu abaye barayi abaka egre baralaki akoroto mayo barayo baraya egre ka we abaka egre ka wala lu ni de zia saka towa so ma obaga oba so fia yuna na antaro danna ba iga kwadwa ngai ki bara so na egre mane abro ye egre brago we ki sa dele to akato abaka egre akoroto bo breba o mayo o ogun na o mega iga kwado si ga de zia wadam ya yunga sisi kuru giga kwado nade akato ya obakibe abano egere bara egere bara ka we lalu egere do wa te yibu dene bara do wa dekira edo iwe tero so iwe dezia ayira duado dambe u alo ka 2001 na do trewa abano egere dezia lo pia yune mu adege sianwa school adege atonto dezia adege ya nu kara nu bara ya abano egere so akato wa ima yi aduna elolawe yidre dwa nuswagin ponado so piayuna ndezia. You see how it has affected the community largely. It's not that, when you planted cassava, you were thinking to harvest it in so months, and the thing is just, the water just take over like this. It has affected us because locally we believe and they depend on these crops of a thing within our environment, understand? As a local petty, understand, and the predominant farming we are doing. So with this, is this we are selling to trading our children? Is this we are doing to eat as that we consume, understand? And the way water has just come, look at there, it has affected us seriously.
We have been told, and from the news, that the flood is about coming. So any moment from now, it will start. So I had no choice than to harvest my cassava to avoid wasting all the money I spent last year in cultivating this cassava. Because last year when the flood came, it was really, really too bad. We were flooded. Everywhere in this area was flooded. Our crops were also flooded. There was no harvest.
This isn't just about lost harvests. It is about a complete disruption of livelihoods and a threat to food security in a region already grappling with decades of environmental degradation from oil exploration. The very ground beneath their feet, their source of sustenance, is turning against them.
The best way to describe what we are living in is the title of the report that was issued in May 2023 by the Bayelsa State Oil and Environment Commission, titled Environmental Genocide. And we understand that genocide is an intentional and systemic attacks and destruction of a people based on race or ethnicity, and that is not accidental. Now, when we consider what has happened in the Niger Delta for almost 70 years of oil and gas exploitation, we see that the best way to describe it is with one single word: ecocide. An ecocide, whereas genocide talks about destruction of killing of people, ethnic cleansing and the rest. Ecocide talks about also intentional actions by corporations or individuals, by anyone with the knowledge that what they are doing would have adverse ecological consequences, which may even be irreversible. That is what we've seen in Niger Delta.
The experiences of these local farmers are not just isolated incidents, they are symptoms of a much larger global phenomenon.
The future of the Niger Delta, considering the consequences of global warming, would be very bleak except action is taken now. And the interesting thing is that when people are discussing about climate change, they talk about the carbon in the atmosphere, which is the end product of burning of fossil fuels. But so you have two ends of one pipe. One is the carbon going to the atmosphere. The other one is the pipe that goes to the ground to extract the oil. And there's very little consideration about the source of the problem, the extraction of oil and gas to be burnt. So we count the carbon in the atmosphere and invest resources in false solutions like capturing the carbon and sequestering or burying the carbon, whereas you keep on investing more and more in bringing out the carbon because it yields such quick money for those who are exploiting. And all the people need to subsidize it and suffer the consequences.
For 3 days, strong voices on climate change in Africa gathered in the oil-rich river state capital, Port Harcourt, for the Niger Delta Climate Change Conference. From conversations around climate vulnerability, climate sustainability, and climate solutions, these voices gathered to brainstorm the way forward on climate change impacts in the Niger Delta, Nigeria, and Africa at large.
As issues around climate change continue to heat up in the Niger Delta affecting local communities, here I am in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, Nigeria, for the 3rd edition of the annual Niger Delta Climate Change Conference. This conference is aimed at providing awareness and conscientizing the local communities about the dangers of climate change and where they stand as they are affected by climate change.
My vision now is to see more women groups in the Niger Delta accessing funds to carry out adaptation and mitigation activities to promote climate justice. That's my vision now. So 30 years from now, I'm envisioning the climate leader to be a woman. And I'll tell her to ensure that more funds are given to women organizations to strengthen the action that they are already taking.
Convenience doesn't lead anybody anywhere. We need resistance. Without resistance, there's no movement, there's no growth. Imagine if this floor is covered with oil and it doesn't resist your movement. How will you move on? Can you move? You fall all over the place. You fall for anything. When you don't have a position, you're not going to. That's why I mentioned when I was making my initial speech. You have to be ready to be convicted for your convictions.
Conversation continues because Ghana is also highly impacted by climate change. Issues around galamsey has been in your country for quite a while. Right. I see how you're tackling it. The other day I saw Nnimmo Bassey, right?
Yeah.
Who was on air in the forest trying to tackle it. How are you tackling this very critical issue?
Well, what I can say is that galamsey is a serious security threat to our country. And His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has shown a lot of commitment towards ending this canker. Our water bodies are seriously heavily polluted, and people are mining indiscriminately. It is a challenge. So that's why I am saying that you saw one of my colleagues moving from one place to another, seizing excavators and all those things. What we are doing currently is to let everybody understand that there's a way of mining without necessarily destroying the environment. That is what we are looking at.
Minister, apart from the activities, the actions that the government is taking towards illegal mining in Ghana,
What are the steps that the government is also taking towards providing justice for local communities whose water bodies have been destroyed by these issues over the years? Because there must be a step, in as much as you are taking the excavators from these Chinese who are invading the forest reserves. What are the steps to that, you're taking?
So we're looking at alternative livelihood for these people, and the government is very serious about that, because at the end of the day, I was telling somebody that you seize the excavator and go, the person has money. You're going to buy a new one and go back. Yeah, we keep seizing, then they go back. So we need a more pragmatic solution to this matter, where livelihood will be guaranteed.
But the discussions did not just end at the 3 days event. Activists led by Comrade Friday Nnimmo Bassey, the director of Lake Development Foundation, organizers of the Niger Delta Climate Change Conference, also went on the streets of Port Harcourt to raise awareness.
Climate justice. Climate justice. Climate justice.
We are now open to the variants of climate change, flooding, sea rise, excess heat, and the accompanying health challenges. As I'm talking to you now, a lot of Niger Deltans who would ordinarily have fed themselves and lived relatively comfortable lives are penniless. They have no homes. Like homes that were destroyed in the last major flood, some of them have not been rebuilt. So people are displaced. Yes. And climate change and its challenges also have also caused conflicts in the communities, so that you have people who can no longer go to their communities. We've lost a lot of people. Some chiefs are chiefs, but they are in the Port Harcourt, they are not in their domain because there are issues in their communities.
Niger Delta will be recognized as one of the most polluted environment on the planet, and where the life expectancy have reduced to 41 years. All these are the issue that catastrophic around the climate disaster that we are recording.
This is a renewed call, because we are beginning to see climate change in different dimensions, especially as it relates to rainfall, food production, and the oil spill, which I want to localize and talk about. For me, oil spill as an Ogoni man has been one of the bane of our development, because arable land and that was fitted for agricultural purposes are now being soaked in oil. Our fishes have been depleted, and I have been part of the efforts to campaign for justice and recovery of our ecosystem.
As issues around climate change and environmental degradation continue to heat up around the Niger Delta, so does the conversation also continue. Reporting for Capital TV from the 3rd Annual Conference on Climate Change in the Niger Delta is Nnimmo Bassey for Capital TV.
The combination of perennial flooding caused by climate change and decades of severe environmental pollution presents a catastrophic, multi-layered threat to local farmers in the Niger Delta. It creates a vicious circle of degradation, poverty, and food insecurity, eroding their traditional livelihoods and overall well-being. In Ogoniland, a small fishing community in Ogoniland, the problem here goes just beyond climate change. Here, the battle is with environmental pollution, which has lingered for decades, affecting their livelihood built over centuries around fishing.
It is where both children and women come to pick periwinkles and all the small shellfish. Since then, as you can see for yourself, since this oil mixed up with this smoke, nothing survived. So they only that what pursue people from all the settlement. This thing just spring of me. So all this place was dead. We got no place to go.
So now, if you permit me, there are many ways that these activities affect and is compounded by global warming. When oil companies build canals from the ocean into freshwater systems, into inland communities to get to their flow stations and oil wells, that exposes his community to incursion of salt water and salinization of freshwater systems. Now, with climate change, sea level is rising and the Niger Delta is subsiding. So the net effect is a complete destruction of the aquatic ecosystem of the region. And then we're losing territory on a daily basis. If you check satellite images and compare to what has been happening over the years, you find that we are losing land at a very fast rate in a way that should worry everybody. Communities are losing land, we're losing infrastructure, they're losing their houses, losing their farms, even losing their cemeteries. And yet, here we are sitting as if nothing is going on. The future would be very, very bleak if action is not taken now to keep fossil fuels in the ground and quickly change to renewable energy sources.